second meeting of the Regional Housing Committee. It's very new, so we're just sort of playing this by ear right now, but I think we're going to start with the poll. Maybe you just names of towns. Thank you.
I'm having trouble hearing on my end. I don't know if the speaker was far away from the microphone.
Can you hear us?
Can anyone else hear us or not hear us?
I can hear you.
Jim, can you
So
hear us?
maybe it was just that 1 minute.
Okay.
So it's all good.
You know, Abby from Clinton said she had another meeting right before this, so she may be a little bit late if she hasn't joined us. Cromwell. I see Stuart Pepper is here from Cromwell. Deep River.
Daniel Smith.
I also saw Tony Bolduc come in. Can you guys hear us?
Everybody online, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah,
I can
yeah, we
hear
can hear.
Everyone just looks confused.
Yeah.
Tony's muted. Others don't.
East Chatham.
We're also having a dance party.
Jim is here. East Hampton. Jeremy is here.
I'm here. Roy is not today, so I'm in his place.
Okay, Essex.
Hi, David Rogan.
I see Brendan in the waiting room. Can you, if he take a look at it? Chatham.
Yeah, we're here. I'm here.
Killingworth. May show up. Lyme,
David Long, line.
Middlefield. Jim is not able to come today. Middletown. Mark is on vacation. Old Lyme.
Michael Foliato with you.
Old Saybrook. Portland. Westbrook.
All right, and with that, I hope everyone has had a chance to take a look at the minutes of the last meeting. And I suppose I would take a vote to approve the minutes. I'm sorry, it's odd because we don't have an official setup yet, but I would still take a vote to approve the minutes. So
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Actually, Eliza, I have one minor correction. Old Lyme has a standing Affordable Housing Commission established by ordinance permanently, not a committee.
Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Moving on to election of officers. Are we ready to do that at this time, or would we like to continue on until the next meeting? Thoughts?
Do you have a slate of officers?
No.
Well, then, kick that can.
No slate, no election.
Keep it going. All
Should be
right.
asked for.
Yeah. Well, do we have any volunteers? We will come for you at some point.
What are? The vice chair.
Jesus.
Chair, vice chair, secretary. So if anybody,
Treasurer someday.
yes, hopefully. So if anybody is interested between now and the next meeting, let us know, reach out to Eliza or I. And I guess we will continue that to next time.
So the lady running the meeting, isn't really like a stick in the mud. Torrance and everybody in there. I mean, she's already cracked like 15 jokes and we're 2 minutes in. So it's just nice to see her having like free reign.
Hey, Tony, we can hear you.
I'm gonna just.
We like to keep it light
Sit over
here, so call that joke number 17. staggering of terms, we only have approval letters or appointment letters, I'm sorry, for what, 6 people?
We have, well, yeah, so we actually don't have the letters, but we do have 6 people that have been officially appointed by the towns that are not staff or the E CEO.
Okay, so because the terms of the bylaws say that no more than half of the terms can expire in any given year, what we were thinking after we talked about randomizing the last time around was we would take those first 6, those would be the 3-year terms. The next 6 that we get that are official will be 2-year terms, and then the remaining would be 1-year terms. Does that sound good to everybody? Yes.
So the 6 that I have are East Hampton, Killingworth, Old Lyme, Deep River, Chester, and Essex.
All right, should we make a motion on that?
Why not?
Sure. Keep it official. Second,
A second.
all in favor,
I,
Aye.
opposed? Abstain? Discussion? All right. Yes, oh, no, we didn't. I skipped that. I'm sorry. Meeting dates. Kevin, would you want to pull up the meeting dates for us? So Liza, would you want to kind of talk about what we heard from people?
Share that with the folks at home here.
So these meeting dates are based on the poll that was sent out after the last meeting. It's the 4th Tuesday of the month at 2 p.m. We'll plan on doing a hybrid for those that want to come into the office and those that are not able to do so. So this document only shows the rest of the dates through 2023, and it also does not include any of the quarterly roundtables that we had discussed in the bylaws. So we figured those can be added once we get to that point, once we have a better idea of what we're doing for them, and they don't have to be each quarter, but it would be great if they were. And those are the meetings that we will be inviting other partners other than our members to join.
So can everybody see that on the screen?
Yep, looks good.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the website. So we talked last time, there wasn't a lot of discussion on what this website would look like. So we started putting together a concept and a web map because if we're going to be having all of these discussions together with, you know, like today, we're talking about ADUs, we'll, I'm sure, have other discussions on different things that towns are working on. We want to have a place to collect that information and for it to live as a resource. I mean, that's the primary goal, or one of the primary goals of this committee, is to serve as a resource for the towns. So Kevin, I don't know, can you pull up
What
that?
action sheet?
Yeah, let's do the web map first.
Okay. You've got that here.
Yeah, it's on whiteboard. Or if it's easier, we can just show the actual template.
How do I get to the whiteboard
It's in the folder.
in this folder?
Sorry, all bear with us 1 second.
I'm missing something.
Why don't you just pull up the regular website? I'll take a look. That was from Jim. No, why don't you pull up the website?
Oh, gotcha. I have that. That's here.
There we go.
Okay. That. Okay, here we are.
So this is what we have for a website template. we were thinking about the types of information we'd like to share. And instead of, we were thinking of our audience. Who is this information going to be for? So we thought, well, maybe people who need affordable housing. Well, maybe it's for developers who want to build and partner with us in our region. Or maybe it's commissioners or planners or, CEOs, selectmen in the towns who want more information on housing and tools that are in the toolbox. Or maybe it's nonprofits that would like to partner with us. So instead of categorizing by information, we thought we could categorize by what people might want to interact with us about. So those are the main headings. For a little tour, what we were kind of thinking could go under this. If you're looking to buy or rent, for example, where are the existing units? What are the existing rental opportunities? What kinds of assistance programs are available? What other resources do we have? And those would each link to pages with that information that we could compile. If you're a developer, we could have a resource for land that's available in the towns or programs and incentives that our towns have. And contacts in the towns that developers could reach out to or nonprofits could reach out to partner. If you're looking to learn, that's where we would put our toolkit, which would have a lot of this information that we're talking about. For example, the stuff from ADUs today, we can start compiling and making an ADU section in the toolkit, along with a lot of other items that came out of your 830J plans. We can start getting information together on what towns have already done, what the pitfalls have been, start trying to problem solve and get that all compiled in the toolkit. Web series, as Eliza mentioned, those quarterly meetings could be a learning opportunity. We could get people to come in and talk with us. We can do an educational series. So we would have all that information there and accessible in a web series library. And then frequently asked questions, as we know, a lot of information, particularly about affordable housing. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So having a resource to set records straight, answer some of the most common questions and provide resources. And then if you're looking to partner, we could list opportunities if we're seeking partners on things, and we could put in an inquiry form where people can just fill it out and reach out to us for general information about being a partner. So that's what we're looking at right now. We also would be, well, first of all, I guess I would be interested in your thoughts, suggestions, and also if there's anybody who would be interested in possibly forming a subcommittee to start providing content for this and building it out. So looking to all of you.
It looks, just in general, it looks like a good way to do it.
The information now, so
Yeah,
it's a good starting point, as people come around, you'll realize that we don't have.
Right, exactly.
and I'd be willing to work on content.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. First volunteer. Would you like an officer position too? Anybody online?
Is there an intent for the frequency of updates for the folks who are looking for housing? Only because, a lot of that for folks is really that immediate what's available today, because a lot of, folks are sort of looking for immediate needs. Is there a thought on how to best update that so it doesn't become static or outdated?
Can you try in a Zillow feed or something?
Oh, maybe.
Link to other sites, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Instead of trying to keep it updated
On our own.
Yeah, or have real estate agents do
Right.
it. It's really too much for them to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great suggestion. Thank you. Any other comments? Any other volunteers?
Yeah, it's John Guskowski. I'd be happy to participate.
Awesome. Thanks, John. All right, if there's.
Eliza, it's Michael, as part of the 830J plan, we had a story map website done for our town that has some good boilerplate that's already part of it, not necessarily boilerplate, but has some of the background information, the misperception clarification, kind of background content that might be useful as a wheel that we wouldn't have to reinvent.
Great. Yeah,
I can
thank
send you a
you.
link for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
send that over.
Absolutely. I know, yeah, we can get the story up.
Mhm.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. And then I guess we'll move on to, at the last meeting, there was a request for updated information on housing prices. And Kevin was able to put together for us an amazing tool, this data dashboard. We've been playing with it for the last several days. We're hoping it's something that we can build on, but Kevin, I'll let you take it away on that.
And I'm actually gonna go ahead and copy the link to this, because this is a public resource. I'm gonna copy it right into the chat if anybody at home wants to play around with it in real time with us here. But just to give an overview, and actually I'm gonna come over here so I'm not talking away from the microphone.
I think that just went to Tony.
Did it only go to one
I think
person?
it was a direct.
Oh, it was. Tony, you are the special receiver of the, all right, let me go ahead and put that to everybody. Thank you for seeing that. There's for everybody. So here we are, the annual housing data by town, and it's broken down so that you can select any number of towns and any numbers of available data years. And just as an example, we'll pick a couple of random towns. And then in this case, just for the sake of, we'll select all years so we can actually see some information at play. And what we're looking at here are total sales for single family homes across the years by each town, and they've all got their own color. Median sale price for single family homes over that period of time, and then also building permits, how many were issued for new construction.
Excuse me, where is this available?
Well, this is hosted by us, by RiverCog, through ArcGIS Online.
Okay.
So we can send, for the people that are here that didn't get the copy link, we'll send
Oh,
out
yeah,
a
well,
link to
definitely.
everybody.
Yeah,
It's public right now, but it's not living anywhere, so it's not
Right.
attached to a web page,
correct.
right?
Yeah, it's not directly linked from our website just yet.
Where are you drawing your data from?
So we pulled most of it from the Warren Group, which was the same thing that was used for our plan. The permit data is actually DECD, so the state holds that information and is looking for us to continue to update that information. That's another component of this. But for everyone here's use, it's a way of grasping some of this information and being able to compare it from town to town, or to just be able to see a single town at a glance and see, okay, what's our trend? What have we been doing over the last 20 years? And is that a good direction? Do we need to make adjustments to change that? Can we? Those are the big questions at play. But being able to see it and manipulate it and be able to, you can screen grab, pull directly from this if you wanted to be able to show this information to a wider audience, or you can actually just view it live, which is the great power of it, is that you can, this is all live data online. So any questions from folks here, folks at home?
Well, I just want to interject that this is very much beta. And so this is, we're open to ideas and comments and questions. And if people have ideas of what would be more useful or different data sets, this is very much a beta website. So any input or feedback you have is going to be very valuable as we build this out. So thanks. And thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, and anything, this is just the first attempt at using this type of software. So any particular metrics that are of interest to you, that's the kind of stuff that I need to know. And then from there, we can hopefully create easy to use data channels in order to ensure that, one, that we have accurate information, but then also can keep this up to date on an annual basis to keep it alive, keep it progressing forward.
Do we have additional data as to what's new housing as opposed to existing housing relevant to the sales and the prices?
I don't believe so. As it's what was new construction versus what was a resale.
Yeah.
I don't
I can see
think
us
so.
skewing the data a little bit.
Right.
Does that have are all the towns loaded on there so far?
So far, yes.
So it-
Yeah.
It's hard to see from.
Oh.
It's my eyesight.
Sure. Which town?
No, so if you click up in the left corner, those are the towns.
Yeah.
So you can isolate a particular town.
Yep, you can pick a SoFi. Let's go.
Let's pick one.
Absolutely.
Plan.
So looking.
I don't know where that came from.
Different than the rest of the town.
So here we have Lyme, going back to 2000. And you can, you can hover over the individual years and it tells you. So in some instances, it might be difficult to see, okay, where is that point along the line? You can hover over each individual data point. And it'll tell you 2004 Lyme, there were 30 total sales for single family homes. Each one of these panels, you can also make full screen via this tiny little hidden button, where you can then get a better grasp of where the data is. being
And again, we
shown.
don't have any referential data for the building permits such as storms or bad years or what have you.
No, these are for houses, not just renovations. It's not just
For
building
Right.
permit.
right, straight
Yeah.
building,
Yeah,
right?
somebody renovates their bathroom, it's not gonna show up here.
Right.
Right, yeah, no, none of that.
So this is a really stupid question, but
No such thing.
when you have ADU, is that, are you giving the H in there? Right, when you say annual housing data,
Oh,
ADUs, what accessory
accessory
dwelling?
dwelling unit.
Yeah.
We haven't reached that one yet.
Yeah, that's
what I
a
was
different
thinking about with
category.
that. So would those count in the building permits? No, that'd be a renovation, right?
I actually don't know
I'm sure
how
it's categorized.
ADUs are permitted.
Then maybe-
Any of our land use administrators on there?
It'd be an addition, addition or accessory structure, but it won't come off as new single family home like the bottom bars are.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is still under website.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is updated home prices. So this is number 7. I apologize. I haven't been
Okay.
keeping good tabs on the numbers. I'm very excited to share this.
So,
I have a question. I think I know the answer. The sales prices are not corrected for inflation, or are they corrected for inflation?
I
Are they
believe
raw?
they're raw.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
raw value.
What they
It's
sold?
what they actually sold for is
Mhm.
right. So it averaged out for any particular calendar year.
That's why that's new home versus existing structure.
So we have, for a deeper dive, like if a specific town wanted to see more, the data is actually presented monthly. But for the sake of this particular visual, monthly makes it a much more cluttered picture when you're trying to also show 17 towns. So there is a bit of play in the background data depending on the needs to make it more detailed, but from a regional standpoint, doing things by town and by year is the easiest way to show that much information on screen. Sam, do we want to bring up the new requirements and
I have it in the folder if you want to pull it up. from there.
Repeat that, Kevin?
do we want to bring up that new requirements that we're hoping to cover?
Oh, yes.
Mandate. So I.
So
put the-
there's a new requirement on municipalities. I think they're currently reporting building permit data DCD, But in one of the housing bills that passed a few weeks ago, they're now required to break down the housing permit data into multiple categories. So the number of housing permit building permits for single family homes, the number of building permits for 2 to 4 unit attached a multifamily, and then multifamily that's 5 units or larger. They're also required to report to DCD the demolition permits. So data is already being sent to DCD on building permits, and I think they're getting demolition already. But these categories are going to be useful in understanding what types of housing is being, at least for the building permits, are being issued. As we all might remember from 2007, 2008, there were a lot of building permits that got issued that never got built. But the assumption is that if a building permit is issued, that those housing units will be built, and we'll have a better idea of the trends. I've written DCD, asked them if we could use this approach to sort of meet this new mandate on the municipalities. I'm waiting to hear back from them, but it seems like this is something the building department's already submitting. So we could just possibly just get on the distribution as well as and be visualize it and know the impact of our work and our policies.
What's the bill number of that? It says section 208, but what's the bill?
Of course it's not.
You know, that one.
That would be helpful.
Oh, there.
Oh,
There it is. No?
I'm not sure if that's it.
Sam, do you know?
It's only 800 pages.
Yeah, I think it's the Greenways bill that got amended. I think. John may know the number. I'm in the car, so I can't look it up.
Wouldn't be SB 6633.
No, 6633 was fair share, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But didn't that have everything? I think
Yeah,
that
it
had-
wasn't a greenways or conservation bill that they cobbled it in there.
Yeah, it's the amendment. I'm spacing on the number,
All right.
but we can get that out to everyone.
Right. So one of the questions I had to pose to the group of minds that are here is that specific breakdown, the single family, 2 to 4 family, is that something that you keep track of on an annual basis and would be able to pull that number out of a file somewhere? Or is this that kind of a breakdown as far as permits go, an act of research having to go back through the files?
I can give you lines breakdown on multifamilies right now.
Okay.
0. We don't allow it.
Gotcha.
The town would normally have that data, because I have no freaking clue, let me just say.
Yeah.
Where to get that.
I'm not sure.
Some of our planners.
Planners
Jeremy,
We track it, we track it in our software system.
And get that to DC. And then moving forward, they'll report annually the previous year by April 1st. Could you hear me?
sort of.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a delay there. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, the first report that's due on December 31st is 5 years, going back 5 years worth of data. And then starting April 1st of next year, they'll have to report annually. So on December 31st, they have to report 2022, 21, 20, 19, and 18. And so that may require these building departments to go back through their records of 5 years worth of building permits and categorize them into these 3 categories. And then moving forward, they will just be reporting once, and that will be April 1st. So the important dates are December 31st and April 1st of next spring.
I heard someone from a building department chime in. Did you say
It
you,
was Jeremy.
Jeremy, you have that information? You already keep track of that?
Yeah, we do. Our permit software is set up so that we're tracking single families, duplexes, triplexes, and then 4+. So, that's just how we set it up years ago. So we could pull it. I mean, I could pull that for you right now if you wanted it.
That would be
Awesome.
outstanding.
Does anybody else know whether their towns keep tabs in a similar way or in a way that they could easily pull for us? Would anyone be interested in learning from Jeremy what program they use to do that? All right, so if we need to find a way to collect this information. So if you would like us to keep tabs on it for you through this website, then maybe you could find out from your towns if there is a way you could start keeping tabs to export to us, because we will all be required to report on it. And we are happy to include it in the dashboard. The more information we have, the more useful it is for everybody anyways. But it would be contingent on everybody getting it to us.
Right.
Because otherwise I don't know that we have another way to get it, do we?
Short of boots on the ground, going on a field trip.
Right. So no.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's something to think on. Maybe at the next meeting, we can talk about if anyone has found another way to keep tabs or any other suggestions on moving forward with that. All right, where are we on the agenda? So now we're on item 8. That's our discussion on ADUs. So Jim, would you like to go first?
Sure. Does everybody hear me loud and clear?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so when I first got here, very long time ago, we had one of the worst zoning regulations for it. 1, you were required to have double the acreage, and 2, you were required to build it a minimum 1,000 square feet. And if you were in a 4-acre zone, you had to build in the 1,200 square feet. So if you're in a 4-acre zone, you had to have 8 acres and build a 1,200 square foot house. Slowly, with a huge bunch of resistance, I started working on my commission members, because what people were doing is going, is that so? I'm going to build a family room. It's going to have a bar, a big TV, a bathroom, and I'm inviting all my friends over. And from a zoning enforcement aspect, I can't say no. That's what was on the plan, and that's what they were doing, because they needed to move mom in, dad in, their kid from college. So they're just getting around it by building family rooms. And it was, it was out there. So, and what are you going to do? They weren't advertising it for sale after as an accessory apartment, because they still were connected. There was a doorway to it. So I slowly, let the commission members know that this is a reality and it's kind of ridiculous. And one of the things I said, who wants to build their kid 1,000 square foot room building, or their mother-in-law 1,000 square foot, and they'll stay there forever, especially the kids. And it's true. I mean, that's a lot of, a lot of expense to be paid. And I think one of the key points is I told all my commission members, I said, do me a favor. Just pretend the worst thing in the world happened to you financially, or your spouse passed or something. He said, I want you to go home and tell me exactly what you need to live. He said, go and just pace out your kitchen, your living room, your sleeping quarters. And it was interesting. All of my female commission members came back and said, I could deal with 400 to 600 square feet. And all of the men came back and said, I could deal with 400 square feet, but I need a 2,000 square foot garage for my toys. And it was, they were all in concurrence on that. They needed all that space, but it prompted a whole discussion about reducing the square footage. So over the years, we were reducing the square footage, but it was still requiring double the acreage. So I want to say 10 years back, I said, guys, if you can get it, if the septic works, let's do something. So at that point, they said, well, okay, you have to have another 1/4 acre or a 1/2 acre in certain zones. And then they got down to even smaller square footage. So we were a little bit ahead of the curve. We weren't, completely on top of it. they were still requiring it to be a special exception. They approved absolutely every single one. There was no reason to go to special exception. And all they needed to know was a coordination of it doesn't meet the septic. Is the health district going to approve this or not? And will it work? Because they didn't even get bother into architectural review part of it. So finally, in 2021, when Public Act came by of as of right, I said hallelujah, because I could jump on the bandwagon and bring this step, to them and say, let's just do it. But being that we're a community with 3 lakes, what we were also fearful was some of the stories, the horror stories of the shoreline of multiple Airbnbs and, just getting pounded with parties and everything else. Now, when this legislation first started out, there were versions of it that said you can't also restrict Airbnbs. And I know I screamed up and down and made some phone calls, and I imagine others did too, because what it did was then they said everybody's going to opt out. Absolutely. Everybody's going to opt out of this program if you can't keep a handle on the Airbnbs and the partying and these, beach and lake associations. They said they're just not going to put up with it. And I'm not sure, maybe that's a poll that we can put out to everybody. How many did opt out of it in our region? I don't know that answer. But since we were almost there, I just urged my commission to jump on board. Let's do it as of right. You don't have to go to a special exception meeting and listen to something that you already know you're going to approve. Who's going to deny grandma from moving in with the family? They're just not going to have that happen. If it works septic wise, and they provide it on an A2 survey and map, that shows that it can make it, then let's just move on. And they did. They went through that. But there is a condition that we have, that they file an affidavit that either the owner is going to live in the accessory unit or the primary unit, and that it's not to be, rented out as an Airbnb, and it's filed on the land records. So it's part of the entire package. I have a lot of people taking advantage of it. With the cost of healthcare, or the cost of, kids with, $150,000 in college debt coming home saying, okay, what are we going to do now? And with the fact that, people say, we just need our separation, but it doesn't, a wall suffices. Although one individual said that I ruined his life because we permitted it now, and he wanted to know how far an accessory unit could be built away from his house. But other than that, it has been a very successful program. The end of this though is we do need to get these ADUs accounted as affordable housing units. And no single family home people don't want to hear about having to be deed restricted and go through all that stuff. And I don't even know in all these small rural towns how we'd even keep track of that. It's one thing with a housing complex and you hire a firm out to do that work for you, or you have a housing authority that does that work. But when it comes to accessory apartments, we already know they're smaller in square footage. We already know that their support for most likely 8 out of 10 times for family. I just think it should be counted as part of the overall number of what's affordable. So that's my short story. And if there's any questions, we'll go from there.
I have a question. Do you have a tally? Are you keeping track of how many?
So as we were talking about this, I'm going to go through the annual reports of the building official, what they put in, because they log it, and I'm hoping that they don't log it in as addition. I can go through my special exception of the few I've done and look back. I can't go back for all the family rooms that were converted to accessory units because I don't know what percentage of them were real or just, okay, we're doing this. And the other thing too, that's an amoeba also. You build something out, and I had a discussion with one family. They owned a 2-story, raised ranch, and the family room went on. And I, had an honest discussion with the property owners. I said, well, there's going to be a day where you're going to want single floor living yourself. So, time goes on and next thing you know, they're going from the upstairs bedroom to the downstairs bedroom and using that. And then, whether they downsize and sell it, and then you have it out there for a, single family, and then also advertise it as an accessory unit. I have people specifically looking for that. And if they can't find it, they're asking, can I do this on this lot? So I do have that coming up quite often. So I will try to track down the numbers we've approved.
I would love if we could keep tabs on that. I mean, I think that would be a useful data point for our dashboard as well, especially if we want to try and get them counted at some point as affordable housing. I feel like having an idea of the numbers would be really helpful.
And I think the assessor can help me with that too, because they have it listed as an in-law, so I can just sell it a mash to button and print out how many in-law apartments you have.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions for Jim? That was really great. All right.
Did any of our towns opt out?
I think Old Saybrook did.
And we did too. East Hampton did. And as I say that, I do have a question for Jim, because we've got a maximum size of 900 square feet. So we're kind of close to what the state required, but we have an acreage requirement that goes along with it, and it's a special permit. And I had that conversation with the commission about, we need to think about transitioning someday to an as of right use. And the commission up here in East Hampton almost lost their minds because of the lake neighborhoods, right? I mean, that's the primary reason. It's, what do we got to control parking, and the roads are narrow, and what are we going to do? We're going to have all these cars all over the place. And I just wonder how you dealt with that around Moodus Reservoir and some of your other lake neighborhoods that you've got, or did the commission just say, yeah, okay, that's what the state's requiring? I mean, were they worn down, or how'd that conversation go?
So the good part about it is zoning for some reason came in after they split the little lots up and said you could have a 1 acre minimum around the lakes. Well, one of the requirements in my regs is that it has to meet the minimum requirement of the zone. So if you're on a 0.5 acre and a 1 acre zone, you don't get the opportunity. You're just not going to. And one of the problems that you have up there is that you're on sewer. So the sewer is not an issue, but if they don't meet the acreage for the zone, then they can't apply. So that was one of the commission concerns. You can tell me that, and I said, no. If it doesn't meet the minimum acreage of the zone, then they can't apply. So most of my lake lots are 0.2, 0.4, very few are half acre. So that was kind of what helped buffer that concern. It's the best I could say about it.
Yeah, we've got a similar requirement, but for whatever reason that didn't sink in, but okay.
I keep
Takes
wearing
years.
Yeah, well, I keep wearing them. I mean, we didn't have an ADU regulation at all when I got here 7.5 years ago. So at least we've got something on the books now, but okay.
Great. And then I believe originally Jim Irish was going to also speak. He couldn't make it today. But Phil Warner, I think you were going to speak instead. If you're there.
Yes, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Well, I'll start in Haddam, since that's where I am. Haddam is interesting. We allow attached and detached accessory, not terribly onerous. Detached, you have to have at least 2 acres, and all by special permit. So that was how it was. We got rid of all that. So now we're pretty much mirroring what the state wants. So no real controversy to it. So it was no real problem. The unique part about Haddam was that we allowed accessory units by special permit. And I think this is how I got it through so easily. We allowed them by special permit for accessory apartments, limited in size, etc. But every single family zone we have allows 1 and 2 family homes. So if, we restricted 800 square feet for an accessory apartment, but if you wanted 1,200, just call it a 2 family, as of right. So it's a strange thing, but all of our zones allow two-family homes in every single family zone. So that is really positive. I mean, in the 5 years I've been here, no one's built a duplex. And you could count the number probably on two hands. I don't think it's very popular. If you have the opportunity to build a big single family home over the years, you're not going to build a duplex just from a marketing point of view. But that spilled over to Middlefield, where I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Middlefield, we just recently amended our accessory units to pretty much comply with the state requirements. There was some concern. Middlefield did opt out. There was concern about the lake. And there is sewer there, which made it complicated, and parking was an issue. So I was concerned about that, but we pretty much ended up doing what the state was looking for. But I also proposed that we should allow two-family homes as an indication that, yeah, we're allowing more than just single-family homes in our 2-acre and up zones. And that generated opposition. We probably had about 30 people at the hearing opposed to allowing two-family homes in their single-family zones. So that did not pass. But we do allow the ADUs. That's all I have.
Any questions? What was the hang up on that not passing?
Just the whole thought of that we're allowing rental units, and the argument was that we're allowing ADUs, so why not just allow a full two-family home on 2 acres of land, which really wouldn't have an impact on a neighborhood. But I guess if you've made your biggest investment of your life, right, and you don't want something like that next door. So that was the issue.
Maybe a size thing, ADU versus a second unit, or
Could be, yeah, could be. And I think most people view ADUs as in the family, not just a rental unit, which is not the case, but that's it.
any other discussions about ADUs that anyone would like to share? Anything people are trying, need assistance with? We've got a wealth of knowledge here and experience, so.
This is John. Not to over promise anything, but as my firm works in a whole bunch of towns at this point, and a number of them, probably most of them have adopted ADU regulations. We're preparing sort of a catch-all property owner information thing, like, hey, did you know you can now do this? And an ADU is now allowed the same way a single family residence is, and to kind of go through what as of right zoning means and that kind of thing. And so we're hoping to make it available to our member towns, and then obviously, all towns in general. But so hopefully that's pending in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
Would that go in your toolkit?
Yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
that's something I know we'd like to promote, John,
Yeah.
in Chester, so.
Yeah, I'm curious from the group, for those towns that do have, that do allow ADUs, how many people are taking advantage of it? Because John, to your point, I feel like a lot of people don't know.
I think probably 90 to 95% of people have absolutely no idea that the rules changed.
Yeah. Or even the wherewithal to go about building an ADU, even if they did know. I was a planner in California before I came here, and a lot of times when we would work on regulations, we would look up north, so Washington and Oregon. And one of the things that I found when researching ADUs out there was doing promotional events. If you want to promote ADUs, for example, I believe it was in Portland, Oregon, they did a ADU bike tour where you would get a bunch of people together. It was highly publicized. You would, do a meal, and then you would ride your bike around to see different cool examples of ADUs, and end it with like a packet of, here's some pre-approved plans. If you wanted to build an ADU, these would fly right by. This would be perfect, so long as you have this amount of land. I don't know if that's something that anyone.
I'm not sure that'd work in New England, Connecticut.
It's a lot of riding. It's a long trip.
It didn't have to be a bike trip, but some kind of a promotional
Yeah.
something.
River Valley Transit Tour.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Use the new bus.
We can arrange
So
that, yeah.
So Megan, I think that's a good point about people not knowing the law has changed, but also maybe what kind of resources are there out there to help with building these? Like, can you what kind of loans? What do banks offer for building an ADU? Because that's I think one of the concerns I have is that building ADU is expensive, and anything we can do to help people build them, I think would be beneficial. And also one thing that also came up in this session, but I don't think passed, was a concept of you value affordable housing based on its rental value as affordable housing, and therefore you give the owners of affordable housing units a little bit of a tax break in their tax assessment. That could be linked with a sort of annual certification that is renting for a affordable rent, and maybe could be a way of counting towards 830G in the future. But that concept I don't think passed. But that would be one way of being able to certify that the rents are actually indeed affordable, and maybe making that argument towards having these units count.
Good point. Is there, while we're on the topic of ADUs, anything, if we're pulling this information into our website and into our toolkit, is there anything else that you collectively would like to know or that would be useful for your towns that we could start pulling, or we could pull the other towns about for the next meeting? No burning question.
I kind of got to go back to the well with John and see what we have.
Yeah,
We might have some of the stuff already.
all right, great.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and if anybody had, if anything comes up after the meeting about it, please, it's me and we'll disseminate it out.
Yeah, I mean, and as we're kind of getting the feel for how these meetings work and what kinds of resources we're going to be able to provide, it's kind of getting a sense for what's helpful, and what would be the most useful for all of you. So yeah, think on it. And then I guess that brings us to item number 9, updates from the towns. So is there anything going on in any of your towns that you'd like to share?
Maybe a little something. Hi, I'm Pat Vance. I'm with the town of Chester, and so in March 2022, we started hearing rumblings that one of the Catholic churches in our town may be selling their property. It's the St. Joseph's that's on Middlesex Turnpike there, when you're going up Route 154 there. So we were keeping our ear to the ground, and then they issued a press release later that year that announced that they had proposed plans to, or they were selling the land to Honeycomb Real Estate Vesta LLC Properties as a joint venture, who plan to build 40 affordable housing units on it's about a 3-acre property there. It would be 100% affordable units, 8 buildings. 26 of those units would be 1 bedroom and 14 would be 2 bedrooms. They held a public hearing information session, I guess, not a public hearing, a public information session on January 31st. It was pretty well attended. They said the plans were, preliminary. They were willing to work with the town and the residents who lived in that area. So since then, they've been meeting with different town officials. They also said that most likely they would be using 830G for that. So we knew that. So since then, they met with the WPCA on the sewer. They met with public safety officials, the fire, the police, the whatever. And I believe they've worked out most of the major issues that came up. To date, they have not yet submitted an application. It was supposed to be this month, but I heard just earlier this week that probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, it should be submitted as a planning and zoning as an application. So since then, I would say maybe back in April, we started to get indication there was kind of a grassroots anti-housing group starting up. They have now called themselves the Concerned Citizens of Chester, and they are putting out regular communications about, you know, what it is, what it isn't. Not always accurate, but so we have that going on. From the town's perspective, we have also been putting out updates about it. We also put out information fairly recently about the 830G process, because there was a lot of misinformation about that going around. What it is, what it isn't, what it could do, what it can't do type of thing. So we put together a FAQ on that, as well as the housing situation in Chester. And I did share that with you, Megan, if you want to share that with the group, if you want to consider that for the toolkit. And I'm not taking any authorship there. We basically looked at many different sites around the state and cut and pasted what they had and made sure that it was legally accurate and all that, and hopefully it is, so.
Perfect.
So anyway, that's what's been going on there. We'll see when the application gets submitted, what happens from there, so. And John G., I don't know if you have anything to add, because I know you're close to that as well.
Yeah, so I'm anticipating the application within the next 2 weeks. It'll probably be received at the July planning and zoning meeting for a public hearing in August, to start in August. Again, you know, per 830G, which is what they're taking, they actually don't need a public hearing. It is a site plan review, but they are choosing to be the as friendly as they can be approach and let the neighbors have speak their piece. And I believe that they only chose Concerned Citizens of Chester because NIMBY Chester LLC was already taken. So
I'm curious. So I reached out to a couple of people because I'm learning that all the towns all the towns that have had 830G applications handle them a tad bit differently. Would anybody be interested in maybe following up at the next meeting with kind of a discussion of how different towns approach 830G projects, particularly like friendly 830G?
Isn't that a lot like asking how we approach following the speed limit? 830 is the law is the law. How do you approach it?
Right, well, it's. Go ahead. No. So that's what we initially thought as well, but talking to the towns, it sounds like some of them have different ways that they handle it.
Some of us speed.
Like, for example, I was speaking to the planner in Old Saybrook, and they like to take a friendly 830G approach. And they almost treat it sounds like almost like a deviation, where they ask the applicant to follow the zone as closely as possible, but provide a site plan and then like a list of all of the areas where the plan would deviate. and then they do a public hearing and they go over all of that. So not everybody does that, but to me, it seems a good way to go about it, at least so that you can see how far, how far apart you are. Of course, if you don't have a friendly developer, it probably wouldn't matter that much.
Yeah,
But
you're talking about PR. I mean, at the end of the day, if, the angry mob show up with pitchforks, the developer can say, that's nice, but we're gonna do it anyway.
that's true. But like I said, different towns approach it differently. I didn't know if it would be useful for the group to hear about, some experiences that towns have had when they work with developers on 830G, whether friendly or not. Because we have a feeling that the way legislation is going, we'll probably start to see a lot more 830G applications in the town. And I know towns that haven't had them before are maybe at a bit of a loss or starting from a disadvantage from not having that experience. So
Do we know how many active or near active applications there are in our 17-town area?
currently, I have no idea.
Is there
Charge
any?
it for wine.
Yeah.
Zero.
I believe there's some coming in Deep River. John, I think,
You are in Deep River?
I believe there's some. I know planning going on. John would know more formally. Yeah, Deep River, there's a couple. That's what.
I know some have had them already, like Haddam, right? Jim had one. and-
John, has there been a need for Deep River as of yet?
Any current? Well,
Yeah.
I think the senior housing, Kirkland Commons and such, was approved through an 830G process. As was there were actually over the last 5 years in Essex, there were 3 separate ones that were actually all received quite differently by the public, the one from another. But as far as I know, in the communities we work with in River Cog, the one that's happening shortly in Chester is the only one, either current or pending.
In towns that haven't had, or, even in towns that have had applications in the past, but maybe not recently, would going over that be useful, hearing from other towns how they approach it?
Well, I think the big part is the public perception. I mean, I had a developer at Banner, they were afraid to tell me, and I said, I've been waiting for a year. I said, I have no idea what you've been doing, just bring it in. Oh, really? He said, yeah, bring it in. You're statutorily, you can bring it in and do it. The public, though, it took 3 meetings for the public to get through, for finally someone said, wait a minute, if they do all the mapping criteria and they take care of the health code, you have to approve this, correct? And we all nodded, yes, we do. And they said, oh, okay. So it's that public part that needs to be educated, that, it's been there for decades. It's not like this is anything new.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It caught our community by surprise.
That can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is the public idea.
All right, so everyone's set on 830G. We don't need to talk about it. We're all good.
We're all gonna be hearing more about it, learning more about it.
Yeah, everybody's welcome to Chester.
All right. Then I guess I'll move on, unless there's anything else from other towns that you'd like to share going on in the housing world.
I read that, maybe it was old line, but it might have been line. They're totally doing cluster housing in a rural area. That was gonna go up for public hearing. Was that your?
We're in the planning process of perhaps doing elderly housing using small cluster housing, not quite tiny houses, because that's not suitable for elderly, but either elderly or mixed age groups and all. But that's in the planning process. One of our problems is land. Half our town is in protected status. We don't have a lot of land left.
Right.
Now, if you want to know, I think, Well, I guess we'll wait for agenda 10.
If there's nothing else, then yeah, let's move on to number 10.
I think a good discussion for next meeting or topic would be if someone could explain to me what they passed up in Hartford in HB 6633. Because they just, I'm told they inserted 70 pages in at the 11th hour. And is this a study or is this a mandate?
Right. I believe, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, it is now a study.
Well, so it's somewhere between. It's OPM in cooperation with the Department of Housing is supposed to work on creating a fair share methodology for the state, and then that goes to Planning and Development Committee of the General Assembly and to the two houses of the General Assembly. And John may know a little bit more about the logistics of that. I did talk to OPM. Just they do have in this new budget for the new year person, but it's an entry level person, so they're going to scramble to try to get staffed up to be able to competently run this process. But there's a lot more under that in that 70 page amendment. So John, did I miss anything on that?
No, it's a requirement that the OPM and Department of Housing come up with the fair share numbers, just so towns know what that would look like. But as of right now, and if I can look in the crystal ball, not anytime soon, will the fair share numbers become a mandate. But it's a classic legislative maneuver that right before you surrender and declare defeat, request a study.
Yeah, but wait a minute. What I'm also told is that there's a housing organization called OCA that has proposed a formula for how to for fair share that they're feeding to OPM, and OPM is looking favorable because who doesn't like somebody doing your work for them?
Well, OCA was the group behind the Fair Share Initiative, and they, the numbers that they were using were, basically their best estimate based on sort of New Jersey formulas.
Their number is existential threat to mine. They have us going up by 192%.
Yeah, could you calm down? Could you calm down for a second? Those numbers were proposed by an advocacy group. I think it's way too premature and incorrect to say that OPM is looking favorably on those numbers. OPM hasn't really even been assigned this task yet. They're just getting started. So I would take a couple of real deep breaths and back off on language of existential threats at this point. It's a study and nothing really has gotten underway.
John, this is Michael Foliano. I agree with you on not overreacting at this point, but I don't think it's too soon to start to understand how the methodology evolves and ensure that it is done in contact with the towns that it will affect and considers all of the dimensions that should go into assigning a fair share quota. And that goes beyond just need and goes into capacity and other aspects. So I think without necessarily reacting, I don't think it's too soon to open a dialogue.
No, I don't think it's too soon at all. Of course. And there was a great deal of discussion. And I think a lot of the reason that, there are lots of reasons that the majority of this legislation died. But the gap between demand and need, or the analyses of what demand is versus what need is, was a big
and capacity. I'm going to keep saying that, but capacity also has to be part of the calculus.
Well, yeah, capacity is a catch-all for a bunch of different things.
It's capacity. So what is it?
Well,
there are a lot of
dimensions. Are you talking about your particular emotional capacity? Are we talking about soils? Are we talking about roads? Are we talking about sewer and water? Are we talking about schools? Capacity means a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, and it needs to be understood, and it needs to be part of the calculation.
Rivercog submitted testimony that basically went through the methodology that we put out in our regional housing plan that looked at population and jobs and environmental resources and so on and so forth. But we also said, similar to Michael, what you said about being in contact with the towns, we proposed that the COGs and the towns should be involved in developing that methodology. So we will keep ringing that bell.
Good.
Go ahead.
I have a proposed topic. At the last meeting, I had asked the question about who has a housing committee or commission.
Yes.
And I saw some of us do, some of us don't. Because of this project, we are getting a lot of pressure to develop a housing commission in Chester, even though our affordable housing plan called for a tri-town with Deep River and Essex. But we are getting a lot of pressure to do that. So I would be interested in how towns that have a commission,
Okay.
how they did that. And we're looking at the sustainable CT model for that committee.
Yeah.
If you're familiar or not familiar with that, but we've been looking at Lyme and Old Lyme. You two are the two that seem to be where we want to be. But how did you do that? How did you get that committee? How did you select them? And what things do you need to put in place for that? So,
Would Michael, you be willing to speak to that at the next meeting?
Happy to.
Great.
thank you.
And David, what about you?
Yes, I'll explain mine's, the affordable housing,
Awesome.
committee.
Thank you. Great. Any other topics, suggestions for next meeting? All right. Then if there's nothing else, I suppose, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right. Thank you for bearing with me and hosting my first official meeting like this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You did an excellent job.
Can we put you up for chair?
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Megan.